I want to start with the Josh Heupel situation that he has joined the lawsuit that is basically the University of Tennessee against and the state of Tennessee and Virginia against the NCAA, which is spearheading, and I'm sure financially bolstered by other agencies, but it is to overturn the NCAA. Let's go ahead and talk about it. So that's exactly what it is. If you want to vote on our poll question, go ahead and do so. Which player would you like to have back for another season? Would it be Jawan Jennings or would it be Trey Smith? We'll see where that ends up. Jawan Jennings has about a 2-3 or 2-1 lead at about this point, 2/3 of the vote. All right, Caleb, give me the latest on Josh Heupel joining this lawsuit. So this is a bit unusual to me. This is not a situation in which a lawyer orders you to give a statement. This is more voluntary statements, right? I mean, this to me, and I've covered a lot of legal proceedings. This to me has been a little bit different. We had Brad Lampley start that at first.
Jackson Lampley.
I was joking. Brad Lampley was the old boxing guy. Why are the Vols doing this? Why is Josh Heupel doing this?
So this is a declaration submitted to the courts on Friday. And I think the point with Josh Heupel, I don't know if Jackson Lampley was asked. I do believe Josh Heupel was asked, though, to submit a statement, because what his role to do was to give a coach's perspective on the confusion created by the NCAA with their NIL rules.
Okay.
So his exact quote is, NCAA rules are vague and confusing. They frequently change, and they sometimes conflict with NCAA's prior guidance. Now, that's the first part, which I think you and I and everybody in the world knows is true with the NCAA. They have changed the rules multiple times, right? And said they'll retroactively punish.
Yes.
Yeah. So then comes the next part, which is he says, because of the NIL recruiting ban, the information recruits have about NIL opportunities associated with the given school is incomplete and not always reliable. Athletes want to know about and understand their opportunities. But like my fellow coaches at UT, I feel I have had to avoid discussing NIL opportunities in any way, even at a high level, or assisting athletes in navigating this complicated environment. Translation, I want to be able to tell my players how they can make money when they come to Tennessee, and I'm not able to do that when I recruit.
That's exactly right. So SC Scout Guy, who's a great poster and I trust, says South Carolina is passing a new NIL bill today to mirror Missouri. So the difference in what Missouri's Eli Drinkwitz is able to do and Josh Heupel is incredibly different. And let me tell you how it's different. And if the South Carolina law is like that, it's going to help Shane Beamer. And it's probably going to cost Tennessee a prospect because Shane Beamer can do things that Josh Heupel right now can't do. And it's brought to you by our friends at Apex Apparel when it comes to signage, promo products, screen printing, embroidery, headquartered out of Knoxville, but are national dealers, one-stop shop for all products, giveaways, and uniforms. They got those called Tyler, 865-919-3001, 865-919-3001, or go to yourapexapparel.com, yourapexapparel.com. It is right down there. So, Caleb, I believe this is a preemptive strike because once you sue somebody, you give them perjury power. In other words, this is why no one is sued. This is how clean Tennessee thinks they are. And you wouldn't do this if you weren't. But you wouldn't normally file a lawsuit against the NCAA because then you could start pulling witnesses. You have witness subpoena power. So this to me is kind of to stave that off, to do that and say, oh, he gave a statement. But I don't believe that Josh Heupel specifically discussed Nico Iamaleava or the payments that went to him. Would you agree with that? And then I want to get into the South Carolina and Missouri bill, which I'm read up on.
Yeah, I don't believe that they want to do that at all. And he's not going to do that with Nico. I think this gives off a vibe that something you said that I didn't see happening, which is I felt maybe you're right. Maybe the states want to settle. I didn't think they wanted to settle. I thought they wanted to take this thing straight to the Supreme Court and get this and have the NIL regulations shot down. But based on having these witness statements, I'm getting the vibe that Tennessee and Virginia are hoping the NCAA is willing to come to the table and settle. Isn't that the vibe you're getting with that?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So, and for those who like, again, if you sue and you think you have a case, a lot of times this happens in lawsuits a lot. Even if you think you have a case and you're sure you have a case, you'd still rather settle. And a lot of times to help your case, before there's witness subpoenas, you throw everything you can at somebody, right? And so the state of Tennessee and Virginia are going to throw everything they can at the NCAA before actually getting called to witness or getting subpoenaed in court. And this happens all the time. And this is why a lot of times when there's lawsuits over personal conduct issues and the person settles, it makes them look like they were way worse than they were, because sometimes they'll settle when the other side threw a bunch of stuff at the wall to see what sticks. That is makes it sound way worse than it really was. And then they settle to make it go away. Case in point, prime example of that, guys, was the Peyton Manning trainer lawsuit when she resued in 2003. She threw a lot of stuff in there that wasn't there in 96 and 97, but the hope was to try to get Peyton Manning to settle. He settled, and then all of a sudden it looks like Peyton Manning did a bunch of stuff that he never admitted to.
Well, that was Peyton Manning's fault because he mentioned her in the book and he had a non-disclosure agreement. He wasn't supposed to say anything. That was just stupid. I mean, as astute as the Manning family usually is, that was a huge public misstep. I mean, to have her in your book just even mention broke the non-disclosure agreement. So she came back and asked for more money. Just with that situation, really quickly, I can't tell you how many times she's blown up my phone to talk about stuff that's 20 years old. So it happens all the time. It was happening once a week. She is still a woman scorned and wants more money. But I don't want to get into that. Here is the deal with the South Carolina and the Missouri law. This is the first time we've ever said that. But here it goes. Tennessee is at a disadvantage in NIL. Hey now. That's a statement because we said the whole time it's an advantage, right?
Right.
Well, you have schools like Missouri, you have schools like South Carolina that are up and saying, hey, now we are going to add this new rule where the coach can sit in on the negotiations. So this is golden. And according to SC Scout Guy, the new South Carolina law would allow the universities directly to pay players. That would be a new level. Okay, so if they do that, good for South Carolina, bully for South Carolina. I mean that's smart. But what is the first smart step that Missouri took, and I believe is part of this South Carolina law as well, is Eli Drinkwitz currently can be in on a negotiation. He can be in the living room and say, Walmart, what would you like to offer this 5-star defensive end? And you may remember the one he picked up the week the law passed, Caleb. They did pick up one if you want to check that out. And it was a kid that Tennessee was in on as well. That to me is just the natural progression of this thing. I think that's a step on the way. And then I think eventually the money's going to come through the schools. But to me, for you to set up a situation in which Josh Heupel has to have a burner phone and clandestinely call Spire Sports and say, hey, you got to go get this guy. I mean, that's just opening it up for more violations, right? So why not let him be a part of the room and say, I know he should know how much in his budget he's got to spend. So if Nico says, I'm just using Nico as an example, I need $2.5 million. Why can't you just say, okay, we can do that. Let's get this deal done. What you don't want is one decision maker in the room and not have another decision maker in the room. So even if this NCAA case were to stall, Tennessee, the state of Tennessee needs to get that fixed, correct?
Yeah, and that's actually one of the things I've been ranting about from the start on this is one of the reasons Tennessee is suing is to bypass their own state laws, which are stupid. And I agree that it's a federal antitrust violation, so it should all be shut down anyway. But in the meantime of that, I don't know why Tennessee doesn't tomorrow pass an NIL law similar to this. Because one, what's very clear is this, and you've noticed this, Dave.
You want to hear my theory?
Sure.
I think it's states where programs are struggling and they're like, let's give them a boost. And Tennessee's lawmakers are like, they're just doing fine. Let's work on real law stuff. That's my theory.
But Tennessee's state legislature actively passed a law limiting NIL. So they went out of their way to pass a law limiting NIL because they banned pay-for-play at their own NIL. I mean, at their own state regulations, which was stupid. So, I mean, I get your point, but I don't think they were that forward-thinking. And I think, honestly, you're right. This will come back to be a big problem. Because here's the truth of the matter, Dave. You notice the NCAA didn't go after it. Do you think they would even try to go after Missouri, South Carolina, or a California school the way they're going after Tennessee right now?
Are you arguing there's not as much salaciousness because Tennessee's a more prominent school?
No, I'm arguing because California schools, Missouri, and South Carolina now all play in states where if the NCAA came for them, they'd be in direct violation of state law. And they came for Tennessee because they knew they wouldn't be in direct violation of state law when they came for Tennessee.
Okay, I got you. Well, that makes sense. I think coming after Tennessee was stupid, as compliant as they were in the latest investigation. And I don't blame Donde Plowman, and I don't blame everybody else for reacting with a lawsuit. That ain't overreacting, guys. I mean, you sat there and you worked and worked and worked with a contractor that's working on your house, and you're like, hey, I need to get this done and that done. And then they do it all and they come back and charge you double. And that's about what this is. So the NCAA, after working with them, comes back and treats Tennessee like trash. Well, they can stick it. And I don't blame Tennessee for suing them. Absolutely not.
No, I don't blame Tennessee, but I blame the state for having state laws in place that made the NCAA feel comfortable going after Tennessee.
I'm not going to argue that, but I think that's probably just out of ignorance. I think there are probably NIL laws passed that we didn't really know what was happening. You have Governor Haslam, who's a part of the Haslam family, so he knows how this works. I've interviewed him before. I'm guessing at his core, paying players seems wrong. You know, he's not close to it. Let's remember he's a politician, not just a part of a football booster.
Yeah, but he's not governor now.
Oh, okay. Well, good point. So who's the one passing it now?
It's Bill Lee. Governor Bill Lee was the one who passed it. And yeah, so I think I don't know what the state was thinking when they did this. I mean, it was I don't know what was going through their mind. Maybe they thought in their mind, we can get out ahead of this with the paying players and we'll pass some regulations now and create a standard and we'll be the gold standard. In reality, what they did is they passed a law that set them behind, where the rest of the states are like, hey, Missouri and South Carolina were like, we can jump ahead. We can scoop Tennessee now. We don't have their NIL budget, but we got new laws in place that'll make it easier to recruit athletes at this point. So, I mean, because now Missouri can literally go to a high school kid and say, this is how much you'll make if you come. That kid calls Tennessee, how much will I make? And Josh Heupel literally has to be like, well, let me get you through my burner phone, like you said, to Spire and yada, 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 and can't actually promise them what they're going to make. It's a big deal. And
you saw what happened with Jaden Rashada at Florida. So Billy Napier apparently wasn't on the same page. So that to me is just common sense. I could see somebody old school passing it, thinking, oh, players shouldn't even be paid anyway. Being old school, I could see that happening. But I don't know. We'll see where this ends up. I think this is just one of the minor steps. And I like Josh Heupel going in and giving, basically, it wasn't a deposition because he wasn't cross-examined, but I like what he did. I think it was very smart for the University of Tennessee. I don't think they have anything to hide.